Again, what the deck, I lost, I tried again. I saw that God, I am not Jada. I saw that I'm coming. I just wanted to touch down. I saw I told you, I'm get out on the job. I told you, it's not that small. Other than you, it's not that small. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Jaya Krishna, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Govinda, 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 Radha Damodar, 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 Alitan Sakadevi Kita, Itai Gaur Saman Kita, Srila Prabhupada Kita, Ananta Koti Vaisnavinda Kita, Itai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Today we are reading, oh, is it fourth chapter already? I thought we were on the third still. Fifth canto, fourth chapter, verse 3, is this correct? Just please tell me. Okay. All right, so this is the characteristics of Rishabhadev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'll just read Sanskrit. It's a little difficult for me. Yasya Hindras Pardhamano Bhagavan Varshena Varshatat Avadhairya Bhagavan Rishabhadevo Yogeshwara Prahasyatma Yoga Mayaya Swavarsham Agyanabham Amabhyavarshad. I'm not going to repeat that. So we'll just go to word. Yasya, of whom? He, indeed, Indraha, king of Indra of heaven, Spardhamanaha, being envious, Bhagavan, very opulent, Varshe, on part of Varsha, Navavarsha, did not pour water, Tat, that, Avadharya, knowing, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishabhadevaha, Rishabhadeva, Yoga Ishvaraha, the master of all mystic power, Rahasya, smiling, Atma Yoga Mayaya, by his own spiritual potency, Svavarsham, on his place, Agyanabham, Ad, uh, Ajanabha, Nama, named, Abhyavarshad, he poured water. Translation. Indra, the king of heaven, who is very materially opulent, became envious of King Rishabhadeva. Consequently, he stopped pouring water on the planet known as Bhartavarsha. At that time, the Supreme Lord, Rishabhadeva, the master of all mystic power, understood King Indra's purpose and smiled a little. Then, by his own prowess, through Yoga Maya, the internal potency, he profusely poured water upon his own place, which was known as Ajanabha. We find the word Bhagavan used twice in this verse, both King Indra and Rishabhadeva. The incarnation of the Supreme Lord are described as Bhagavan. Sometimes Narada and Lord Brahma are also addressed as Bhagavan. The word Bhagavan means that one is a very opulent and powerful person like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Narada, or Indra. They're all addressed as Bhagavan due to their extraordinary opulence. King Rishabhadeva is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and therefore he was the original Bhagavan. Consequently, he is described herein as Yogeshwara, which indicates that he is the most powerful spiritual potency. He is not dependent on King Indra for water. He can supply water himself, and he did so in this case. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Yagyad Bhavati Prajnaya. Due to the performance of Yagya, clouds of water are manifest in the sky. Clouds and rainfall are under the management of Indra, the heavenly king. When Indra is neglectful, the Supreme Lord himself, who is also known as Yagya or Yagyapati, takes the task upon himself. Consequently, there was sufficient rainfall in the place named Ajanabha. When Yagyapati wants to, he can do anything without the help of any subordinate. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is known as Almighty. In the present age of Kali, there will eventually be a great scarcity of water, anavrishti, for the general populace, due to ignorance and the scarcity of yogic ingredients, will neglect to perform yagyas. Srimad Bhagavatam therefore advises yagya sankirtana prayaya janti hismedasha. After all, yagya is meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this age of Kali, there is great scarcity and ignorance. Nonetheless, everyone can perform sankirtana yagya. Every family in every society can conduct sankirtana yagya at least every evening, at least. In this way, there will be no disturbance or scarcity of rain. It is essential for the people in this age to perform the Sankirtana Yagya in order to be materially happy and to advance spiritually. Yasya Spardhamano Bhagavan Varshana Vavarshata Avadharya Bhagavan Rishabhadevo Yegeshwara Parahasyatma Yogamaya Yasvavarsham Ajanabham Namabhyavarshat. Indra, the king of heaven, who is very materially opulent, became envious of King Rishabhadeva. Consequently, he stopped pouring water on the planet known as Bhartavarsha. At that time, the Supreme Lord, Rishabhadeva, the master of all mystic power, understood King Indra's purpose and smiled a little. Then, by his own prowess through Yogamaya, his internal potency, he profusely poured water upon his own place, which was known as Ajanabha. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayarupa Kadamahyam Dhanati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine. Right, so Hare Krishna to devotees. So today we are continuing reading from the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We're going into beautiful characteristics of Lord Rishabhadeva, who is Bhagavan, the original personality of Godhead. And the story starts with, again, Indra, the king of heaven, who's always materially opulent, but somehow or other, due to his position, time after time, and even with Lord Krishna, either in the form of Rishabhadev or Krishna Swayam Bhagavan, he allows himself to compete a little bit due to little envy. One time he wanted and he didn't succeed. This time he decided for drought. Decided not to pour any drop of water, and again he didn't succeed. The Lord Krishna poured the water himself on his place, on his place he resided. So, this competition sometimes goes on between the father and son. Indra is a devotee. He's a devotee who has attachment to this Ishvara Bhava, control and opulence, which is actually, you can say, a definition of Bhagavan. Bhagavan means different opulences, the six opulences, namely fame, prestige, fame, glories, strength, the actual riches, the beauty, the renunciation. So, knowledge. So definitely Indra is very, very special soul. And of course, Indra is a post. It's not a name, it's a post, it's a position, like God or the Supreme. It's a position. But the name of Indra, actually, recently in a class, Guru Maharaj mentioned the name of our Indra. I forgot, unfortunately, to release in this class. So there's the name of our Indra, who currently rules. And it seems to be this Indra is the same, because this particular pastime happened on Bhartavarsh, which is our planet, with Rishabhadev, and so Lord Krishna comes later. So Indra still lives, so it must be the same Indra making the mistake twice. Sometimes it's different Indra, because Bhagavatam pastimes are of different millennia, so maybe different Indra sometimes. But this particular Indra seems to be the same. So he tries for drought first, and next time he tries to pour the water. So it happens out of envy, and this is a material quality. All the demigods have a lot of beautiful divine qualities, yet sometimes some of those lower qualities can also manifest due to fear to lose the position. Same as happens in our planet also. Different leaders are competing amongst each other, trying to prove who is Bhagavan. by different riches. There's different competitions going on, sports competitions, film competitions, politics competitions, and so forth. Everybody, whatever this, even renunciation. There's a beautiful pastime how to renunciates were before they were very rich business people, and so both of them were given and given, feeding thousands of people, and in this way they were competing who is more renounced, who can give more. So eventually, anyway, I don't want to go into this pastime. I don't remember too many details, but the point was that they were competing in who is more renounced. So this competition nature is very prominent in spirit and material world, but also in the spiritual world, but it just have a different nature. This competition in spiritual world, how to please Krishna the best, they actually serving one another, because ultimately they're thinking of Krishna's happiness. And because they happen thinking of Krishna's happiness, this competition is not having this envy part. They are willing to serve one another to make Krishna more happy. And this competition becomes blissful competition. There's no negative emotions and the desire to put someone down. One of the definitions Srila Prabhupada gives of envy is to glorify somebody indirectly. So instead of glorifying somebody indirectly, we better glorify somebody directly. So if you feel a tinge of envy towards somebody, just know it's actually you understand they're more opulent in something. So instead of developing this disturbing feeling within yourself, just try to glorify directly devotees or people in general, whoever. It's not like we cannot glorify people for what they're doing good, because it's encouraging also. For example, somebody was quoting the other day in a class that maybe Gary Krishna Prabhu, who always have those stats, that Americans are actually one of the most the prominent nation who gives charity the most. Like in general, people give charity more than any other nation, done by some poll. And it's actually true. You can see this a lot. People are actually very reciprocative. I just, like, how to say, not intentionally, just came across one little video on YouTube where a bum, a homeless person, saw a piano and came down, sat down, and started playing it. And all of a sudden, the people were passing by. They started to film it because what he was playing, he was looking very badly. Blonde beard, smelly skin. You can see he's on drugs also, like taking drugs. So, but he was playing this beautiful music, like completely on a very high professional level. So people start filming, and they didn't let him go just like that, because they immediately saw the talent manifesting. And Krishna says, "I'm the ability in man, I'm the talent in man." So it was very attractive, and so people posted on a video on a YouTube, and this video hit, like, it was in 2015, and this video hit like over 2 million views, like very quickly, like few weeks. And so people started to wonder, who is this person, and how can we help him? So basically, somebody started a fundraising campaign. So people donated $40,000 immediately to this fundraising to get him on a drug. Say, yeah, not detox, but actually get rid of this addiction, drug addiction and alcohol addiction that he had. And some barber came, and he for free he gave him a nice shave of his both face and hair. And in 3 months, basically, if we short the story, in 3 months he was playing on a stadium with 75,000 people live, the national anthem of America. And the university, which he didn't finish with a musical degree, they gave him stipend to continue and finish his degree for free. And one company signed a contract with him, so he's now actually making his own music. So what happened with this person is, as story goes, that he actually became homeless because his wife committed suicide, and he became so like down and couldn't find himself that, and he left with a 3-year-old son also. So he just couldn't function after that. And of course, because he became alcoholic, so the federal government took his son away. And so that was his last happiness. And so after that, he became a drug addict also. And 15 years, he was just roaming here and there in Florida and different states. And eventually, this thing happened, and people helped. And this is amazing how Dhruva Maharaj was recently telling me also that some farm also, due to gust winds, or fire or something happened. Anyway, the barn just got on fire or completely destroyed. People came up with $8,000 in like few days to just restore this person's farmhouse because his farm couldn't function. Small farmer. So in other words, I'm trying to say that people do have good heart, and this charity is prominent, can be glorified too. It's a wonderful quality, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in 12th chapter that he gives a gradation. What's the best? Best is just to remember the Lord, never forget Him, and always remember. This is the topmost sadhana bhakti. That's like a spontaneous affection. It's kind of ruchi, a sakti level, that when you attracted to the Lord immediately. But then second stage is sadhana bhakti, a little lower. But when you were trying to, practice according to rules and regulations of Pancharatrika, and many different scriptures really, and whatever acharyas give us that we try to practice, Sanatana Goswami gave Hari Bhakti Vilas and so many things. Rupa Goswami gave nectar of instructions and nectar of devotion. So there are a lot of instructions how to worship the deities, offenses, and so many things. We try to follow. We try to follow the 10 offenses against the holy name. We try to avoid these. Try to follow 4 regulative principles, chant a certain number of rounds, and take bathing, keep the body clean, and so many things. So when we're doing this, it actually brings us to the sattva gun, mode of goodness, where it's from which to attain transcendental level of spontaneous attraction becomes much, much more possible, because your mind is more calm. If that's not happening, then Krishna says the next level, cultivate knowledge or do some charity. So it comes, because lowers down to that, or do something good, do some charity. So it's actually a good level. So if people get used to the habit of giving charity, one day they'll give to devotees, or one day they'll give to temple, or to, for Sankirtana. And this way their pious credit will become more prominent because of that help and that attachment to devotees. They eventually will come to that next level, that sadhana bhakti, or studying the scriptures first and then sadhana bhakti, like this. So this is wonderful. This is, Srila Prabhupada has started his movement in America, actually. And he saw how those boys and girls were reciprocative, and how they managed to push this movement very quickly forward. So, yes, so Sankirtana Yaga, the other aspect of this verse is the Yaga, which brings rains, just in general. Last year, there was a scarcity of rains, even 5 hours away from here. My sister was saying in Stamford, Connecticut, that the trees were dying out of shortage of rain. The lake that she had there, like, became like half full, or even less. So, she was worrying, and we had rains here all the time. It was very lush and greeny, and seems that the Sankirtan Yagi was going on nicely due to many retreats, but also devotees programs every morning. We don't have many evening programs, but we do have morning programs. Sometimes we do evening programs too. So this yaga has to continue. Prabhupada says here that at least once a day in the evening, the families should get together, because for families it's harder to get together in the morning, but certainly it's possible in the evening after work. I've seen a very nice congregational member, Ananda Vilas Prabhu, and I was hosted by him in his house a few weeks ago. And I just was, I don't know if amazed, but somehow or other I kind of forgot what it is because I didn't go to outside of Gitanagar for a long time to visit families. But when the whole family, 3 children and 2 parents, got together for evening, glorification for Gora Arati, it was so nice to see. And here, they were so spontaneously chanting so vibrantly and in unison, the whole family, it's grown-up children also, 22, 16, 13. So nice to see this mm, family unison. Basically the deity has attention, and deities, they have attention by the family, and it's just very uniting point. So yes, with such an attitude, the rain or any other really opulences as Parapas conducts here to be materially happy and to advance spiritually. So both achieved simultaneously just by one action, by Sankirtana Yagya. We don't do it with the purpose of, please God send us rain. This is not even though if we are lacking rain, we don't do this as devotees. We do Sankirtana Yagya to please the Lord. Because Haituke Pritihata, we have to develop this selfless attitude in devotional service. We don't expect some riches to come. Even though if we belong in this category in the beginning, those 4 categories, that one is suffering or seeking for riches, that's a bona fide category of pious people. And then those who are curious and those who are looking for absolute truth. Still, the best is seeking of absolute truth out of those 4. And still, this is not even pure bhakti yet. It's still some motive. So the motive should be ideally, and that's what we are trying to follow, Mahajana in a Pata. We're trying to follow the footsteps of Mahajans who are worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead not even out of duty, just out of love. So we just try to follow their footsteps, that this will develop the relationship with the Supreme, and everything will be provided. I was sharing some examples before that when I used to work, and I spent about 16 years in corporate world and having 10 of my own business, or at least partnering with some other companies. So sometimes I had to travel, and I was worrying a lot that where and how I'm going to get prasadam, because I didn't want to take anything else. It was kind of almost like a vow. I just only honor prasadam. And somehow the Krishna always arranged the way for me to have prasadam, even sometimes in a very unusual way. So once I traveled to Greece, Athens, and the hotel that used to be that was chosen by our company, by HP, there was just one hotel in Greece, in Athens, but it happened to be a 10 minutes walk from the preaching center, the only preaching center in Athens. And there were devotees, so I got in touch with them, and they were delivering me prasadam for the conference that we had. That was outside of that hotel, somewhere else. By subway, they were getting to me to give me the prasadam during the lunch break, the exactly same lunch break when people had. So I went outside to park and was honoring prasadam in the park alone. I was coming back to the conference. And then in the evening, when everybody went to party, I went to preaching center and give a class. We had Nas Kirtan and more prasadam. It was just wonderful. And you felt so much presence of the Lord, because he, it's just impossible. How could it happens to be so, such a coincidence? I had this absolutely same experience when I went to Moscow. I had one friend in Moscow a family of devotees who happened to be not so far away from that hotel. And by subway, half an hour, 40 minutes. And so I went to them also for lunch, then came back, and like this. Of course, in the morning you take fruits from the hotel, offer it in your room to the altar, so that was not a problem. And the other friend was delivering to me prasadam from the Govinda store, and then one devotee happened to have a work trip also at the same time, who I knew. So we were in the 2 hotels nearby each other. So he came to me, I gave him prasadam from Prague, he gave me prasadam from home, so we exchanged prasadam. We had one wonderful katha. So, and he also lives in a different city. So it was like a 3-day business trip. And for me, it was also 2 days business trip. So it happened to be at the same time in 10 minutes walk from 2 hotels. So anyway, so my point is that if you trying to serve the Lord, He will certainly provide you everything. You have to have zero worries about it. And that renunciation is actually a spirit of any devotee. It doesn't depend on the ashrama. It's not like only if you're brahmachari, staunch brahmachari, Krishna will take care of you. Or if you renunciate, you're supposed to be fearless. Supposed to be fearless. All devotees are supposed to be fearless. Because the instruction in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna gives, in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says that don't worry about even reactions for the sins that you made. If you surrender to me, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Just surrender unto me. That's the only thing that Krishna requires. Mokshaya shami mashuchaha. I'll clear it out. Don't worry. I'll take care of your bank account. I'll take care. So give me your attention. Give me your service. Give me your desires. Give me your false ego eventually also. If you have that attitude, and you can cultivate that attitude in any ashram as a devotee, because that instruction is for everybody. Arjuna actually was grihastha. He was grihastha performing his work duties, fighting. That instruction is for him. So in other words, there's no exceptions or exceptions. Yeah, I mean, it's really common for everyone. And then if you do like this, even if Indra decides to not pleased with you for one reason or the other when you are in Vrindavan Dham and tries to destroy your village, Krishna will lift the Govardhan hill. You'll be safely underneath and at the same time in a complete bliss, looking at the beautiful form of Lord and interacting for him 7 days straight without him going to bed to sleep, because you don't want to have a second of separation from Krishna. And Krishna will reciprocate with every rasa. Whichever rasa you're in, he will reciprocate with Dasa rasa, or friendship, or eternal relationship, or Madhurya rasa. He will give everyone full attention in regards to their feeling towards him. Somebody would joke with him, "Oh, you lived in this Govardhan hill. Krishna, I mean, I just defeated you just a day ago. How come you're showing up here with this lifting? Give me, I will lift it." Madhumangal would say, it's only because of my mantras and my piety he can still hold. Mother Yashoda would be warned constantly that he's not eating, that he is tired, he's fatigued. But Nandamar says, no, we hold him with the sticks, let's go down the hill, don't worry, Yashoda. And so there's constant interactions, a lot of, then she would start feeding him with her hand and he would be eating, reciprocating. So there's so much love going on. The whole atmosphere of Vrindavan is love personified. So I'll stop here. If anyone wants to comment or ask questions, we have 10 minutes left.
Hare Krishna, Venu-Madhurya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Janavatsala.
Thank you for your class. It's interesting what you spoke on envy, that it's indirectly glorifying people, so we can just directly glorify people. And we've also heard, and I believe it was Spiritual Warrior 5 in one of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's books, or he's sharing an interesting reflection for all of us, that when we're envying someone, like, it's kind of like saying, like, if they dress Krishna so nicely, it's like, okay, don't dress Krishna so nicely, or don't cook so nicely because it's like disturbing me. So that's what we're indirectly kind of telling them. So it's really powerful when you realize when you're envying in the indirect way. I mean, when you're glorifying in the indirect way, it can be kind of causing violence to that person, because you're kind of let's see, cultivating a culture of like, well, we don't want to do service so nicely because it's because of the envy. And interestingly too, Srila Prabhupada in chapter 257 of the Bhagavad Gita, the verse Yasavatra Vishne Hastatat Prapya Shubha Shubham Nabhinandati Nadveshti Tasya Pragya Pratishtita. He who is without attachment, who does not rejoice when he obtains good, nor lament when he obtains evil, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. And the way Prabhupada defines evil there is basically envy, because dveshti is the word that's corresponding for that there. And he in the word for word, he says dveshti, envies, which is very interesting how he's using that word rather than using like, wait, actually here he has a different word also for evil. I'm sorry, I got confused there. I'm not sure where he's correlating that then. But it's interesting how the envy is showing that kind of like that, maybe like a lack of acknowledging what we have or accepting gratitude for what we have. And it's looking towards like, I'm unsatisfied with the situation. So, you're lamenting when he obtains evil, when you're seeing like, oh, maybe I don't have something that somebody else has. And lastly, on the point that you mentioned about surrender to Krishna, there's a beautiful verse, 1857 of Bhagavad Gita. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasa matvara buddhi yoga mubhashritya machita satatambhava. And all activities just depend upon me and work always under my protection, and such devotional service be fully conscious in me. So when we do that, Krishna, he just takes care of our sinful actions. It's so wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. Very nice additions. Of course, we have those examples, Srila Prabhupada is the best example for us to see the full surrender through his whole life, really, through his ashramas, even as Grihasta, he was showing this, surrendering to the instructions of his spiritual master, always trying to assist, help, guide. He was a great fighter, spiritual fighter, the best spiritual warrior. He was showing the example, and it was not easy, The path of spiritual master really is never easy, because Krishna will arrange uh, different situations to glorify his devotee, because others have to follow that example. So through thick and thin, so through many difficulties, they will remain devotees, surrender to Krishna, and that will be inspiring part. But it's not easy, Like we see this glorious ending of those devotees, like Srila Prabhupada or recently Kadamba Kanna Maharaj, left in a very glorious way. And we think, oh, he was just traveling and chanting and doing, parties and sankirtanas. No, it wasn't easy. There was so much austerity, even the traveling itself, what to speak of other things. Dealing with disciples. He was saving 4 ISKCON projects he has saved. I didn't know about Spanish farm that he saved and like this, Saved meaning really like he put himself completely into it to try to resolve the problems and situations and relationships between devotees which were not good, and like this, in terms of collecting money, in terms of so many things, So it's not. It seems sometimes easy from the outside, but actually, what person is actually going through, how much he's putting himself out. It's not like he was chanting for 3 hours and he didn't get tired, for example, Sometimes he didn't have energy even to start. And then when he started, he had the energy because Krishna provided. But yeah, just like this, I'm just sometimes reflecting on those great devotees that are wonderful examples for us. Anybody else? Yes, Mother.
One comment and one question for me. I really appreciate very faith-building class. Thank you for sharing your own, anecdotes of how Krishna provided for you. And we also hear that, like in Prabhupada's case, Krishna took everything away. Like his business was falling apart, everything was taken away. So when we talk about the fact that Krishna always provides for his devotees, and we mentioned the, Krishna will provide whatever we need for our service. It seems we are referring more to the fact that Krishna always preserves the relationship that we have with him, because material circumstances sometimes really turn very adverse and things are taken away by Krishna. Is that the correct way to understand it?
The question is, sorry for those who don't hear from the audience here, that Krishna sometimes takes everything from devotees. It's actually considered to be special mercy. So how is it that he provides and at the same time takes? Is it that he takes the whatever material, but he actually preserves the relationship? Is that how we should take it? I'm very much inspired by the example of Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami. So if you know that they, after meeting the Lord, have decided that they cannot no longer be in this dangerous situation of serving with this Muslim king and emperor, and they gave up everything. And Sanatana Goswami, first he had to spend a lot of time in jail because of that. He knew the problem was coming. Yet for the Lord, he decided that, I better treat my inner freedom and my relationship with the Lord rather than be in this situation and be dependent on somebody else, because this is not my Lord. My Lord is Lord Chaitanya, Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And so it was very difficult, but Krishna gave light to him and told him how to escape from the prison. And on the way, 600 kilometers he went to, was a trip full of dangers. And somehow other Krishna always gave him intelligence how to remain safe. And when he came, he pretty much didn't have anything else than just torn clothes and pot of water. And okay, he had this opulent chadar from his relative, but even that he will give up very soon. But that when you see this meeting, when they met, and Lord Chaitanya ran towards him, first of all, he called for him because he knew he's outside the house waiting. He was so humble, he didn't even enter the house, although he knew why he's coming and who is waiting for him. He didn't go. So the Lord called himself to Sanatana Goswami. When they met, Lord Chaitanya ran, they hugged, and Lord Chaitanya was crying. Same as Sanatana Goswami, not just crying, there was ecstasy tears. So they were both shaking in ecstasy. So this Brahmana, he was so shocked. What's his name? Shekhar? What's the Chandrasekhar? Yeah, Chandrasekhar. Brahmana, he was shocked by seeing this. Who is this dervish? He thought he's a Muslim by the look. Why they have such a relationship? But because they had this experience, and then Lord Chaitanya would give him this Sanatana Shiksha, the 4 chapters of Madhya Lila. Anyway, I have to finish the details, I'll open it up. But what I'm trying to say that Lord Chaitanya maintained him through all this time, even though there was not much opulence. So much so that even when he had this Chintamani, it was not needed. So he gave him the higher knowledge and higher bliss. Okay, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam.